morning, everyone. Today we present you our keynote speaker, Dr. Dorothea Bowyer. She's a lecturer at the School of Accounting at Western Sydney University, and I think she's working there since 2004 at Western Sydney University. And the title of her keynote will be The Essence of Research Skills in the Contemporary Business Settings. So you are free to start and to introduce yourself.
Thank you for the introduction, and good morning to Germany. Well, we're at nighttime right now, so you just see the sunset behind me. It's a real pleasure to be here today. Unfortunately, I can't see any faces because the way this is run. But if you have any questions, I believe the moderator will inform me, and afterwards, I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm really excited to be here today because I talk about two of my passions when it comes to academic work, which is actually employability skills and research. And combined, this can get all the graduates ready for a successful future. So the reason why I wanted to bring up today's topics in light of as well COVID-19 is I wanted to look at and discuss with you the changes in the workplace, issues that you as graduates should be aware of. Then also the changes of the university model. A university these days is run like a business institution. It's about profit making, it's about getting graduates in, getting graduates out, and building a brand image, a reputation. And then it's about you, the graduate. The graduate, you want a job, you want a career. You want to ensure that the 4 or 3 years that you have invested into your education gets you the right outcome. Now, how does this relate to research? Have you actually thought about it, that research skills are the crux of today's business society? That research skills can get you a job, that research skills make you highly employable. So this is more or less, what I will be addressing in this keynote today. And I do hope you can relate to certain aspects that I will be referring to. I also speak German, so in case you have any questions about certain topics that I'm discussing, you rather talk to me about it in German afterwards, no worries whatsoever. So the world of work has changed. We all know that we are surrounded by artificial intelligence. Now, in my classes, I mainly teach postgraduate students just before they graduate, actually. And I'm involved in applied units, work integrated units, where we do projects with our students in the role of consultants, and they actually assist the real businesses and giving them recommendations at the end of the day. So in terms of the changes, the artificial intelligence, when my students get rejection letters because they didn't get a job, now the problem with that is that it wasn't a human writing them the rejection letter. It was actually AI, okay? Thank you very much for your interest in our company. Unfortunately, you did not get the job. Now we are surrounded by automation, by robotics, because it's all about cost reduction, increases in productivity. And at the moment, there's also what I call the X factor, the impact of the pandemic on the world of work. The pandemic had a massive impact, which I will be addressing in 2 minutes in the next few slides. The pandemic had a massive impact on the workplace, the university, and you as the graduate. A lot of graduates these days think that, and they decide to stay at the university longer even, just to ensure that they can optimize their time and go into the employment market at the right time, because it is a really tough market at the moment to be employable. There's also the big dilemma, which brings me back to the topic of the workplace and the university. Now, over the years, the corporate world has felt that soft skills, the skills that make you a leader, the skills that are not technical, the skills that will actually get you the job. It's not the technical skills that get you the interview, like your CV and what you know, because you've been to university. You have to know certain aspects like what accounting is, what's a debit, what's a credit, what's strategic management. There are certain concepts you have to know by now, but it is the soft skills that will actually get you the job. And there is this big dilemma that the corporate world says that the university has to invest more into the graduate and get them ready and bring out those additional skills. Now, research skills are one of those highly sought skills by the workplace, which I will address towards the end of my presentation. But keep in mind, there's this big dilemma right now between the workplace, the role of the university, and how do we ensure that the graduate has the skill that the industry needs. Not only is this complicated enough, but COVID-19 had a massive impact. COVID-19 had a global impact anywhere, and especially it is the graduates that have been hurt really badly, because the graduate market shows the problems in the economy, and they are here to stay. Yes, we do have the vaccinations problems rolling out. I feel very fortunate being in Australia, and we are back to normal. We had 0 cases up until literally today, but for weeks we had no COVID cases. We are back to the way we were pre-COVID. But what we are witnessing in Europe, in America, in the other parts of the world, those problems, the problems that the economies have been facing are here to stay. And with that, the graduate recruitment, your chances of securing yourself a well, truly deserved job, because you've put in the long miles for 2 or 3 years right now. You've doing your thesis, you might have done your thesis, you want a job, but it's so competitive at the moment, and the volumes of graduate recruitments are down. And this is what I'll show you on a table in the next slides. The negative side of the problem that the graduate recruitment is facing due to COVID is that the market will not recover straight away. There's so much skills out there in the market that employers, they will seek to employ people who have the skills, who have the lived experience. It is the graduates that will suffer down the track. So young people, they have decided to prolong their education time at the moment. And all I can say is, from the research that I do with industry on employability, is ensure that you bring and update your skills wherever you can, and that you really work on applied projects, so that when you get your interview, you're employable, you can showcase some sort of work integrated learning, applied experiences. This is what I find very fascinating. It is a table that shows, the table is a bit outdated. It's a few months old, but as we know, COVID is so fast that this table is already outdated. But what I wanted to highlight to you is that the graduates have suffered across the world, even in countries, Australia and New Zealand, where we felt that we were not as badly hit as parts of Europe and America. We do see that the graduate market has decreased. Recruitment levels have slowed down. There are not many positions available. Internships, placements have slowed down. And this is a problem, because this is where the applied lived experience comes in, which is demanded by industry. This is actually one of those skills, one of those X factors that will get you the job when you show what you have done, you have actually worked, you have accumulated skills that the future employer really wants. Also, it shows you across the world, we are all going into the online learning. We have provided everything online, exams online. We have been monitoring exams. You've been part of this entire pre and during COVID experience of how digital technology has actually saved higher education, because we could have still provided you with the content, but what you missed out on is the real work experience. And this work experience and the way COVID has had an impact on the graduate market, this is unfortunately here to stay. So overall, the goals of a university is to ensure that we get you ready for industry. But the question is, how can we get you ready for industry? Now, we know from research and what I'm involved in, industry wants applied experience. They want skills. They want lived experiences. They want soft skills. They want students who can communicate. They want students who can think. They want students who can solve problems. So across the world, you have now inquiry-based learning, what we call research-based learning, project-based learning. It's all about solving a real-world problem. Now, this is great because already in your projects doing research, you have been exposed to certain soft skills development that can get you ready for the future employability market. So can research skills, because it's a research-based seminar, can research skills in a post-COVID era help you get the job? Now, what do you think? Is the answer a yes or is the answer a no? Well, the answer is a definite yes. And I will address it in the next few minutes in terms of what and how you should see the benefits of actually doing research, being involved in research-based learning and participating not only in the seminar, in the presentations that you have been doing yesterday and you'll be doing today, but also taking on every opportunity in the future that is research related. Because the answer is a yes. Research can help you get a job. Now, let's start from the beginning. What is research? Now, let's think about it, like at a very basic level. Research helps me solve a problem. Research is all about deciding on a method that suits the problem that I have or that I'm being asked to solve, to investigate, and to make an inquiry. Research is about thinking very strategically, very systematic, and being able to interpret a lot of information. That means making sense out of the information that you have. Now, research is as well using your inductive, deductive approach, looking at new phenomena, choosing a technique. You as a researcher, a project manager, or a project leader, you as a researcher have the authority to ensure, to decide what is going to happen within your project. So you choose a technique that suits you. You decide on your research design. And for those of Zeppelin students who had me in research design and the qualitative methods unit, you know how big I am on research design, and especially how important a research question is that drives research. But the beauty of it in terms of research is you decide on the project scope, the context, and see it as a little project that you're managing. So you're already having project management skills without even knowing it, because you just think, oh, it's research. Now, research, when I talk to my students, what is research? They tell me, I do research only because I want to become an academic, because I want to do a PhD, because I need to do it to graduate, because I do have to do a thesis, but they don't realize that research has become part of our everyday life. Now, you all have a phone in front of you. Let me tell you, everyone is using the phone at least more than 60 times a day. That's already, it's research, because why do we take the phone into our hands, our smartphone? To get smarter, right? Smartphone, we get smarter. We pick it up because we want to inform ourselves. We want to widen our knowledge base. Yes, we check social media, but at the same time, we are reading up on things. So we spend, and actually it's a lot of times, we spend more than 4.5 hours a day on our devices. And this is as well, why do we do that? We try to answer questions. We try to derive meaning. We try to inform ourselves about new concepts, ideas. So research, what I really want you to understand, research is part of everyday life. Research is not only to do a PhD, become an academic. Research is not only for quantitative or qualitative purposes. Research is about finding answers and finding the meaning if you do qualitative research. Now, I'm super passionate about qualitative research and various approaches in that field, but coming up with meaning, with perceptions, understanding what people actually mean, try to say, how they say it, which words they use. I mean, this is a fantastic way of seeing everyday life through different perspectives. So just keep in mind that research has become part of your everyday life, and embracing research in that way will help you build those skills. Now, research skills, the ones that you will build, will give you the potential to be right for the job in the future. Now, what is potential? Okay, what does it mean as graduate has potential? The potential that industry defines a graduate to have is ability. Now, everyone has to have skills. Everyone has to be able to acquire knowledge in different environments. Also, aspiration is key that for someone who has potential, because you want to hire the right person from an industry perspective. And research skills get you ready to showcase that you do have potential for industry. And engagement. I mean, when we do research, we engage with people, we engage with a problem, we engage as a project manager leading our research project, and we are trying to make the most out of it, finishing it on time. So potential is reached as well in your research projects. So very important, research skills give you the potential to be right for the job. It's a combination, once again, of ability, the knowledge that you have, the skills that you have, take them to the next level. And doing research can help you with that, because it showcases as well engagement and aspiration. Now, when you manage your research projects, you are already engaging in building your employability skills. As mentioned before, every project, that's what I tell all my students, my PhDs, and just my students who work as consultants for businesses in the units that I'm running. It's all about, think about it as a manager. Think about whatever you're entitled to do, be it from a small implementation of a costing model to a big thesis on airports. Make sure you see it as a project. You have to manage the time. You have to be judgmental. You have to coordinate yourself as the researcher. You coordinate the people who might be involved if you do interviews or focus groups. You are working on your communication skills. You're going to seminars. You're engaging. You're listening actively. You are speaking with your supervisors, with your friends to ensure that what you're trying to do makes sense in the knowledge creation, because this is what research is all about. We're trying to create new knowledge. You're trying to be creative, thinking outside the box. So managing your research projects will guarantee you to get better at employability skills. Now, when you do research, you are also enhancing another criteria that makes you highly employable, and that is your entrepreneurial mentality. Now, entrepreneurial mentality means, yes, you can handle being a team player, you are a collaborator. You do have what it takes in terms of coming up with something new, and you are not scared of trialing it out. You can trust others. You are passionate. Your passion drives the project. You are persistent with what you're doing. So when you do research, one of the key things that we do is we reflect on our work. So your reflections, what have I done right? What have I done wrong? How could I have improved my project or this context or the way in which I have to run it to ensure my timeline is met? Now, this increases your entrepreneurial mentality. So this is another highly regarded employability skill that you are working on whilst you do research projects. When we do research, you also have to keep an open mind. Now, when we keep an open mind, we think critically, we're curious, we are trying to derive something that is new. We are flexible, we are listening to people. So being open-minded, being actually inquisitive, this gives you an attitude. I mean, you are not taking for granted what you read, but you're actually trying to look at it from various perspectives. And this is more or less, in qualitative research, we do that a lot. We try to look at meaning and in-depth understanding of various perceptions. So keeping an open mind during research, during your projects, helps you build an attitude, helps you build to be curious, to be responsible, to actually think critically and creatively, which are key virtues of the employability market, but also to be and continue being great researchers beyond our time. So critical thinking is key to research and industry. Now, solving problems, no matter where you are, if you're a marketing major, HR major, if you're doing accounting or finance, you will always be asked these days to come up with a solution. We have outsourced a lot of those other monotonous activities. When they're outsourced, we actually employ people to think outside the box. And critical thinking is key to research. Think about it. You were asked to critically evaluate your findings. You were asked to critically think about how to put your discussion chapter together or your discussion for your research paper. Now, these skills, weighing up the evidence for and against and how you link it to literature and how you discuss it. Now, this is a key skill to have, being able to communicate this type of thinking that you have done for research project. But once again, it is key for industry. It is key to have that skill when you want to apply and get a great job. And it's not only critical thinking, but also creative thinking. Now it's interesting because, critical and creative are sort of a mismatch, but creative thinking is what gets you thinking outside the box. And you have experienced that in your research. Look back at your data collection or your research design and the analysis. You might have been overwhelmed with the amount of data that you had and you collected. And then you more or less, started asking yourself, oh boy, what am I going to do next? Then you have to use your creative thinking hat. This is how I will do it. This is how I will analyze it. This is how I can generate options. This is how I can create linkages between my hypotheses, between my interviewees, between the thematic analysis that I have conducted. So it's very important critical thinking and creating thinking is something that you have been exposed to when you do your research or have done your research projects or will do your big research projects. Build on those skills because they are key skills to secure you a great job down the track. Build on those skills. This is what I have to tell you. Now that with COVID, we do have that gap. We do have students who have to wait to achieve their dream job. Build on the skills that the industry really wants. And I will be addressing that. I've got a workshop later on, and I'm building on those skills based on some research that I've done. So it's interesting we talk about what industry wants and what the actually academic and students think that industry wants. So it's quite interesting, actually, if you want to partake in that. But going back to the address, COVID had an impact on the employability market. COVID, as I've talked previously, had a massive impact on how universities are running, have run. And, there's a new era in the higher education sector, without a doubt. So as part of the 21st century education, it's also skills that are required to be embedded into curricula. And this is the big question for us as educators. How can we do it? Is character. Now, character is key. Courage, curiosity, resilience, someone who's ethical and has leadership skills. Now, this builds characters, these skills. How can we bring those skills to life and ensure our students have them when they complete their degrees? Jennifer Moss, this beginning of this year, mentioned empathy. Empathy is an additional skill that our industry requires in the post-COVID era. Once we're going, it's going to take a long time. I can't foresee the future, but I believe it's not going to be months. It might take years to get over the pandemic. So empathy is a key virtue and a key skill that future employees need to, students, graduates need to be aware of. How do you care about people's physical, mental health, economic well-being? How do you weigh up what's right to do and what is not? And then, of course, digital leadership. It is not anymore about top-down leadership, participative leadership, but digital leadership. How can we embed a skill? How can we ensure that graduates are forward thinkers, industry leaders? They know how to lead, they know how to use technology, they maintain relevant concepts, and they are able to steer an organization forward. How can we, as a higher education system, ensure that these skills that are needed by industry to recuperate post-COVID can be met? I mentioned previously that research is great on building employability skills. It's the soft skills. It's the skills like critical thinking, communication. It's your interpersonal skills that you develop, your analytical skills, your time management skills. We need to come up with ways, of course, how we can develop more empathy skills and how we can bring it all and build characters as a university. Is it even our job to do that? I mean, that's questionable as well. But the industry will be looking at that because they do have a choice who they want to employ. So coming to an end, because I'd love to have a discussion going, and happy to answer any questions that you have. Research skills, yes, it is very important to be ready for the employment market. You learn so many soft skills that you might not even know all the things that you do learn whilst you do your research projects. So think, be very reflective, do a little journal or a memo to yourself. That's what I encourage everyone to do. And think about what are the skills that you have learned whilst you did your research projects that you have presented in this conference, or that you will be presenting down the track after doing your thesis. Is research really worthwhile doing? The answer is definitely yes. No matter if it's quantitative research, qualitative research, a mixed method approach that you will be doing, throughout the research process, you are embedding yourselves in so many various ways of thinking and doing that you don't even know all the skills that at the end of the day make you highly employable, because your research project is at the end of the day something you can present in an interview that you have done applied research, and you can be very proud of your work because it is something you created, you generated new knowledge, and you have shared it with a wider audience. So this is something that all students should always be applauded for. And I do hope we have some time for questions. If we don't have any questions, my question to the audience is, who should take actions getting graduates ready for the job market? Because this is the ongoing employability dilemma. And trust me, in a post-COVID era, this dilemma is bigger than Ben-Hur at the moment. And thank you for listening and switching in.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bowyer. Yes, to the audience, you're free to ask questions in the YouTube stream now. But we are still waiting for some questions to get in. So I have two questions myself. In Germany, I have the feeling that the university system is often more about learning something and then putting it to paper to get a good mark instead of to really do the research and feel the research process. So what can universities do to prevent students from only focusing on learning and marks and instead really getting into research deeply?
It's applied learning. So one of the key criteria is that students do not just memorize, sit the exam, walk out, and then they forget all their learnings. So what we're doing, and this is done in Australia, New Zealand, is work integrated learning. So what we're doing is towards the end of your degree, you are doing engaged units. So we're trying to mix this and match as well, a lot of embedding engaged learning applied projects throughout our units, so that students get acquainted with the concept. It's not just about memorizing, but it's actually about doing and applying what you learned into a project, into problem solving, into providing recommendations, and then be able to present it back to the class. We also have ongoing assessments. So we do not just have, I believe what's in Germany, one assessment per term, but our assessments are ongoing. So we have assessments during the term, mid-semester exams, but also project work, group project, individual assessments, a lot of reflective memos, reflective journals, so that students try to understand, what have I learned, how are my skills, and how am I to progress.
Thank you
and
so
apologies
much.
for the barking. We have a hunting dog who has separation anxiety. So.
Okay, no problem. Then my other question would be, there's already a divide visible between students who come from an academic background, where the parents also studied, and students who come from a working class family. And also, I think the social and financial background is very important and influences the pathway of students a lot. So when it comes to research, it might be even more difficult for those disadvantaged students to keep up. In what kind of way can we support those students and reduce the divide also when it comes to research?
Well, for example, our university, more than 60% are actually first time in family, or even more than 60%, first time in family university students. So their parents didn't go to university, they're the first generation to come through our doors. And we don't really see that much that the students who had an academic, whose parents went to the university and they actually had that pathway, that they would make a choice between research is not worthwhile pursuing. It's actually about the student's own mentality and drive. What is it that I want to achieve? What is it that drives me and motivates me? What do I actually want to get out of going to university? Now, one thing that I always tell my students is never study something just because you are told, because, I teach accounting, and accounting, is not the most attractive and sexy type of subject matter. So a lot of students are like, I do accounting because my uncle told me to do accounting. My mom told me I have to do accounting. It's a safe job. I will always have a job as an accountant. Well, times have changed. Accountants, they solve problems. Accountants, they don't do just debit and credits. Accountants are critical thinkers. And students should really do what they love doing best, because at the end of the day, research helps you embed and employ skills that you can then afterwards implement to an accounting project, to a management project, to a marketing project. It's about the skills that you learned, how to find information, how to analyze data. What does it mean? Even academic writing, research helps you in a particular way how to address findings, how to address certain aspects in academia, in writing by itself. So whether you are first in family going to university or not, I think it's not about should you do research or not. It's about what the student really wants to do down the track. And we do have that generation that does like to change every couple of years. They start with accounting, but they might retire in marketing or in sociology. They've got different career paths throughout their lives. So always do what you're most passionate about, because I believe life is just too short to do something you're told to do.
Thank you so much. I just want to comment that I think the idea is really great, but for students who come from a background where they have financial difficulties and they have to work while they are studying, it might be more difficult to conduct research, because research also takes a lot of time. And
that's true, but you see, all our students work. So we don't have anymore where a student is just a student. In Australia, every student works. So you go to university and you're guaranteed all of them have part-time jobs. All students are not just full-time, even full-time students work. So they take 4 units and they still work. One thing that it's really interesting, in Germany, you have internship, you've got placements, you get paid for that in Germany. Now in Australia, our students, if they get an internship spot, it's pro bono. They don't get paid for it. So they work at retail shops, at coffee shops, just to make some money. But internships, something where they actually get this lived experience that is so highly regarded by industry, this is not paid in Australia. And it's very hard to give students placement opportunities and internship opportunities. So everyone in Australia literally studies and works. And one of the, which I always have to remember, one of the key findings that we had in one of our projects was, for example, are you street smart or book smart? So we asked one of the higher executives in one of the company, who would they hire? Someone, and they said, you know what, I would hire, instead of someone who works at McDonald's, is HD, high distinctions, perfect student. I rather hire someone who works at McDonald's, coaches the soccer team of the sibling, and still has average grades, because they can show me they have leadership skills, patience, they have commitment, and they are a well-rounded person rather than just being book smart. So this is really something that getting a job is not just about your high-level results, but it's actually about combining book smart and being street smart.
Thank you so much. I just want to add that it's true, like internships in the area of economics, finance, and accounting are normally paid in Germany. But for myself, I'm a political science student, and if I want to do an internship at an NGO or a foundation, then I also don't get paid usually, because the social jobs, yeah, it's difficult to get a paid internship there. But I understand what you mean. Let me just check if some more questions came in. Unfortunately, not the participants of the workshops have more questions and, yeah, can contribute.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. And yeah, in case there are any questions, they can also email me.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.